if you do one thing well, the day you decide to go and do something in another industry, whatever you decide to do, it increases the chances that people want to trust you with other things.
In our last Dear Creator episode, we challenged the myth of niche.
I do believe that every single human being is a multipotential.
In this episode, we share mindsets, structures, and systems that harness it.
What specific systems or routines help when you're juggling multiple creative passions?
So I think for me, right, if you're like, the only thing I do is this particular thing, you have to hope that you have enough to work on. I feel sad sometimes that we feel this need to box ourselves and, we're afraid. When you're not afraid, can you imagine what you can create? I want to see what I can do. How can I stretch the human body and the human mind? Because then I'm able to now...
All this talk about young multipotentialites makes me kind of interested in the moment when you first realized that you ain't just one thing. When did that happen and how did that shift your mindset? I would like to hear from Adora and Salem.
The moment where I first realized that I wasn't just one thing. So I think for me, it actually started off when I was a kid, right? In my elementary school days, I was a very academic kid. Like, I was really good with academics. Math, English, science, all the subjects. But I also had a super passion for music, So I would find myself sitting in the music room, learning to play instruments. And it was very interesting because I didn't like to just play one instrument, right? Like, I started off playing piano, keyboard, and then I moved into playing the drums. I used to play the drums during the school assembly, and then I started playing trumpets. I was just like, I love sound, so I'm interested in these different things. But then I also really enjoyed art. So I enjoyed drawing, I enjoyed painting, and so in school, you had situations where most kids had one or two clubs that they were part of, and I belonged to multiple clubs. And here's the interesting thing. I belonged to multiple clubs, but I was really good in each of those clubs, right? And I just didn't feel the need to, dumb that down. So I advocated for myself, even with my family, even with my parents at the time. Like, my parents, were like, oh, so which of the clubs do you want to be? And I was like, I want to do sports, but I also want to, be in the music club, but I also want to be in the arts club. And is that okay? And I think this is where your foundation is also important, and where your people, the parents, the people who raise you, play a very big role, because they could have killed their dream, but they nurtured it, right? It was like, okay, let's see what she can do and how well she can do these things. And so I literally, my parents did get me a music teacher. Mm-hmm. At the time, I had a home music teacher that would come and, teach me classes. And then simultaneously, like, I would do my art thing, and then I would play basketball and I'd play football, And I think for me, I've always been fascinated, even as a kid, I've always been fascinated with the idea that we have capacity. And I keep talking about capacity because I think it's one of the things that really drives me, where I ask myself, like, how can I stretch the human body and the human mind, right, to do more? I want to see what I can do. I want to see what I have capacity for. I want to see what I'm capable of. And it's one of the driving forces in my life. A lot of the things I've created throughout my life have been based on that, on literally just wanting to see what I can do. Have I found out things that I can't do? Absolutely. Can I do them on a 0.1 to 0.2 to 0.3%? Absolutely. And it brings me joy, because then I'm able to now teach and share with other people to say, if I can do it, you can do it too. As you said from the very beginning, I don't believe that it's some special ability, and people like to liken it to, like to attribute it to talent and say you're just gifted, you're a gifted child, you're just talented. And I say, no, I do believe I have some level of talent, but I really think that the thing that keeps me going is this place where I'm just not afraid to feel like there's no shame. There's no shame in my game. So I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm just going and enjoying what it is that I carry. And I think I think that's the foundation of creativity, really.
Yeah.
I think as a creator, if you can get yourself to the point where you really want to experience and explore and see what you have potential to create, the things that you birth are amazing. And then people call you things like multipotentiality. That's when the label now gets tossed on. But I never thought about it as, I'm trying to be a multipotential.
Yeah,
I just thought about it as, I'm just trying to have fun in this
just
life.
be who I am.
You know, expanding myself and seeing what I can do. And then I started to find things. And now I get social media comments where people say things like, is there anything you can't do? Have you found something you can't do? And I'm like, hey, let me try. You know, creativity is fun, man. You know, like I feel sad sometimes that we feel this need to just box it. We feel this need to box ourselves and, box our capabilities and box our creativity so much because, we're afraid. Mm-hmm. When you're not afraid, can you imagine what you can create? When you're not afraid, you can go to the golf course and just swing and just keep swinging and then find out that you're as good as Tiger Woods. I'm not knocking the fact that he's worked hard for many years, but hey, what if you find out that you're actually just a natural?
What if? Yeah.
You're just a natural.
Yeah, I never knew about the word multipotentiality until like a couple years ago. I just knew that as a child, I had one time when I wanted to be a pastor, and then I had one time when I wanted to be a motivational speaker, and then I had another time where I wanted to be a singer, and I had another time where I wanted to, like at different points I wanted to be different things. I thought I was going through phases and moving on from them, but now that I'm grown, I realize I still want to be all those things, right? And I love what we talked about earlier, about just becoming, like constantly becoming as a human being. Because now I'm grown and I realize, who says your life has to stop when you turn 30? Like, who says you can't learn a new skill at a different stage of your life? Who says you can't decide to pursue, you're still pursuing new things. I know, some more expensive than others, but you're still pursuing new things. And I believe it's one of the advantages of even growing up, because when you're grown, I'm grateful for my parents and how supportive they were through different seasons of me saying, I want to do this now. They'd always find someone that would coach me. And sometimes I get bored in 6 months and move on to something else, but they're very supportive. But now I like that I can, because I'm in control of my time, my money, I can decide I want to give my time to this for a period of, I want to learn how to do this. Of course, it's slower than when I was a child because I didn't have commitments and all of that, but we're in the process of becoming. You can always decide that I was passionate about this thing as a child and now I'm grown and I never got to do it. I want to do it now and you can just go and do it.
Yes, you can. And as you were sharing that, I was just thinking about where we started this conversation, and one of the things that we had talked about and you had actually brought up was how sometimes people just want to work with specialists, right? And I was, I was just saying to myself that I feel like my life is a great example of how you can be a generalist. Well, I don't want to call it generalist, but how you can do multiple things and find out that it's actually very financially valuable. Yeah. I sit in a place where I say to myself, like, I can never run out of money. And it's not from a place of, I do say this from a place of pride, actually, because I was about to say it's not from a place of pride, but it is from a place of pride. Yeah. I can't, and I tell you why. There's always something I can do. Always, right? So even if it's not in my primary business, if I go and sit down and draw, I'm going to sell it, right? Yeah. If I'm like, next week, I want to, go tell a story. I'm going to go out and, do storytelling, and I've got it. I can do a storytelling workshop. There's income there, right? So there's always something that is there for you to, commercialize. If you are one thing, if you are like, the only thing I do is, let's use production as an example, right? If you're like, the only thing I do is this particular thing, right? You have to hope and pray that you have enough productions to work on. And if there's no production, you have nothing, right? But if you sit and say, let me explore some of my other gifts as well. I think it gives you opportunity for multiple income streams. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're trying to spread yourself thin in that regard. It's good to know that it's there. I think it's some form of, it even gives you the power to do more and keep experimenting.
Yeah.
Because there's always that part of you that says,
Yeah, it opens up the world.
It opens up the world. It really does. This is not another podcast where we're just talking to you. We're creating a space where you can ask those questions that keep you up at night.
So we're inviting you to be a part of our community so that we can answer your questions.
And to do that, just make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. And then next, visit creatorium.com/ask and submit your questions. The good thing about it is our team reads every single entry.
And because you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, whenever we answer these questions in any of our videos, you'll see it first.
So if you're not subscribed, do that now so that you don't miss any of the videos we've made for you. And guess what? We might even be able to get Salem to do his dance.
That was beautiful. Salem was talking about how his parents allowed him to explore his multipotentiality. Adora, what would you tell parents who are raising children that display multipotentiality? How can they help the child develop into the fullest form of that?
I think it's important for parents to first understand that they are the first point, right, of contact with their kids, and their kids look up to them and believe what they say, right? Whether they mean it or not, kids believe what it is that you say. And so you have the opportunity to either motivate them or demotivate them. You have the opportunity to either, build them up or tear them down. And so it's important as parents to look deeply into what your child is interested in and nurture those gifts, nurture those abilities, right? Regardless of if it's not the most common thing that people are doing. So you will have kids who may not be interested in music, may not be interested in football and, the general things that a lot of children do, might be interested in STEM, for example, right? How do you make sure that you're not comparing them to their peers? How do you make sure that you're not saying, hey, this person plays better football than you, that person plays the piano, why are you not playing the piano? You need to find out what your child is really interested in, and just nurture that. Nurture that, build them up, allow them to ask questions, allow them to become. I think that sometimes we put pressure on our children to do things that we also missed out on. So we say, hey, I never learned how to, play this instrument, so therefore you must do it. And sometimes our kids are not interested in doing that, so how do you make sure that you're doing what is particular to them, what really drives them, what really motivates them.
That was beautiful. Yeah, Salem, I deliberately did not look this way for your...
Okay.
Okay, so now starting with Salem, what specific systems or routines help you stay grounded when you're juggling multiple creative passions?
The way he asks specific systems sounds like exam questions.
That's a good question.
Yeah, but there's something I believe, and it's that it's really difficult, not impossible, but it's really difficult to pursue multiple things at the same time with the same amount of intensity and succeed at all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like one will suffer, sometimes all will suffer. So even as someone who, is able to do a lot of things, wisdom is important, like knowing what to prioritize per time is so important. So I think for me, I sort of think about my life in quarters and months, and that helps me think about them in weeks. Mm-hmm. So for every quarter, I know that what am I prioritizing? What's the one thing that I'm prioritizing that if it works out well, it makes everything else easier. That thing will be different from month to month. That thing will be different from week to week. So for me, it's like just establishing what's the priority right now and what's the timeline on that priority, basically. So, of course, if you do different things, everything cannot be priority all the time. It makes no sense. Sometimes when I work with people and everything is always urgent, I always tell them, if everything is urgent, nothing is. Urgent. You can't call me every time and say it's urgent. was urgent and was not. You know, so everything cannot always be urgent in your life. Establish priority, put a timeline to that priority for that period of time. Make sure that you're giving it your all, and that you're also servicing the other parts of your life. I've also had to learn to delegate in the process. As creative people, we tend to be very precious about elements of, you know, whatever it is that we're passionate about. And there's a lie we tell ourselves that nobody else can do it like me.
And then you end up micromanaging everything.
Right. And the crazy thing is, you're right. Nobody else can do it like you.
But it can be done.
But it can be done.
And the people who work in the big corporations are not you.
Exactly.
But it's working.
Exactly. But it can be done differently from the way you would do it, but it still gets done. And we just need to be satisfied with that, because ultimately you burn out. If you feel like it has to be me, if it's not me, it will not be up to standard. If you want something done, you have to go and get it done yourself. You will faint. One day you will just drop in the name of multipotentiality. So I've also had to learn to delegate. So to summarize, I would just say, first of all, establish priorities, put a timeline on that priority, delegate for the period where you're not able to pay attention to other things that you're deprioritizing. And then when that season is over, you reprioritize again. You know, move some things up, move some things down, put some things in the middle, push some things to other people.
Speaking of systems, just jumping off of what you shared, creators, creatives, multipotentialites, everybody needs to learn how to systemize their work. You know, I think when you can systemize your work, it helps you to be able to, you know, you can resolve some of those challenges that you're worried about, which is, oh, can this person do it as well as me, right? Put in standard operating procedure that enables them to do it as well as you.
Yeah,
you know,
that's your responsibility.
Yeah. So because because in my situation I have multiple expressions and multiple things I'm doing, right? When I'm hiring anybody to be part of my process in any of the businesses that I run, right? There's standard operating procedures. I don't want to leave it to chance, because as much as I don't want to micromanage the situation, there's also my brand.
Are you saying like standard operating procedures, something in a document?
Yes,
that
in a document,
at a glance, everybody can see?
So for example, I mean, it's the way we have SOPs for this show, right? Because we have a brand, right? And we're like, this is the way we want to communicate to people. This is the way we want the people to feel, right? At every point in time. We've had to obviously systemize the entire production, right? In a way where, you know, a guest leaves, an email needs to go out, right? This is a template of what the email needs to say, right? A guest is being invited. This is the template of what the email needs to say. A reminder needs to go out a day before, a week before, then a day before. A reminder needs to go out on the morning before, right? Like, I feel like when you can systemize those things, it makes it easier for things to run without you. Yeah. So your eyes don't always have to be on the ball, but when everything is in your head, which is what most creators do, everything is in their head and they haven't put it out on paper. They've not visioned it and created the systems that allow other people to run with the vision, right? That becomes a challenge, you know, and that was me earlier in my journey. So earlier in my journey, I didn't have standard operating procedures. I didn't have any documentation that tells people how to do what I do, you know? And so I had to be there. If I'm not there, it can never be done the way that I do it. Yeah. So what I started doing was now, okay, you know what? I'll do the smallest details. I'll dot my I's and cross my T's and then hand it over and say, here's a playbook, right? This is the playbook of what this thing should be like. You know, these are the things that are important to me. And then everybody just plugs in. Right, to that matrix. Yeah.
Do you think as creative people sometimes we're ever like so precious about it that we like that feeling of
being the one.
Nobody knows the magic, the secret magic sauce. You know, it's me. I have the touch.
Yeah, no.
And if you don't have it, you don't have it.
For sure. A lot of people are like that, but that's why they don't scale. Right? It makes it very hard to scale. If
so you need to be able to replicate yourself in other people. You have to replicate
yourself in other people. And without taking away from them, because you also want what they have. Yeah. Right? So you're saying, you know what? I'm not saying you have to do it exactly my way. What I'm doing is I'm giving you a framework that you can work with. If you can improve upon that and make it even better, I'm very happy,
Yeah.
right? But this is like my bare minimum of how it is that we need to operate and we need to move forward. And I think if we have more of those structures, we can replicate success over and over again. You know, I always say this, you know, every time I speak to creators, I always say, make a science of what it is that you're doing. If you can continuously make a science of of your creativity, right, then your creativity is replicable even on the days when you don't feel like it. So on the days when you wake up and you're like, man, I don't even have energy for this, you know, if you have a framework that allows you to execute, you can execute. If I have an idea, I have a framework, I'm like 3-4 steps that can take me from ideation to execution, right? Or I want to apply a design thinking approach to this particular project, right? Because it will allow me to just, you know, be able to come up with a solution immediately, right? Then I do that. That's why these frameworks exist, right? They exist to help us. And I feel like not enough people use those things. They're tools that are, you know, at our disposal, right, to be able to leverage. The more that we do that, the more we can build sustainable ecosystems.
Thank you. Now, what's one thing that you've learned after embracing your multipotentiality that you won't trade for anything?
We said that together.
There's more than one thing. But I think the most important thing I've learned is that if you do one thing well, it increases the chances that people want to trust you with other things. So even as someone who has multiple passions, is able to explore different versions of yourself or express yourself in different ways, whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to focus on, even if it's for 1 day or for 2 days or for 3 months, give it your all and do it amazingly well. Because after doing that thing well, the day you decide to go and do something in another industry, even if you are new to that industry, as a result of having done that other thing well, it just opens doors for you. Because at the end of the day, it's not only about how good you are at this thing, it's how good you are as a person, how good you are at work, how credible you are, how reliable you are, the way in which you show up. What are your standard operating procedures? Do you stick to them? Are you kind? Do you interact with people well? Are you a team player? All those things go into what the consideration is, you know. So you've done that one thing well, it's easier for you to decide to do something else and just carry that over, to carry the community over, to carry the credibility over, to carry the track record over. You know, so many things. We see that play out a lot in Hollywood, you know, where an artist starts out as a musician and then from there, you mentioned Will Smith earlier. Will Smith there's people who don't even know Will Smith is a rapper. You know, but he was a Grammy Award-winning rapper before he even blew up before he ever.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to let you continue, but you know that Gen Alpha actually doesn't know that Will Smith was a rapper or an actor. You know what they think about him as?
Not YouTuber.
I kid you not, right? I had a situation where my 10-year-old son, right, said to me, I mentioned Will Smith, and he said, "Oh, isn't that the guy that slapped the other guy? Isn't that what he does?" I was like, no, I was like, no, we gotta get this back. Will's legacy is not gonna go into slapping anyone. So like, I had to have a whole conversation, sit him down and say, this, you're talking about like a legend, a genius of our time. But that was their perception of.
That's crazy. You know, whatever you find to do, that's the summary of everything I'm trying to say. Whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to commit to and put your name on, understand that this isn't just something I'm building in the entertainment industry. It can become something that what's the word now? It can become something that becomes how people judge you for an opportunity in oil and gas. Even though it's work you did in entertainment, you know.
I think for me, it would be that money is value, building with lasting impact is value, but also creating for creating's sake is value. And I think for me, my multipotentiality has really allowed me to experience the joy of what it means to just create for creating's sake. That love, that passion, that excitement that I feel when I'm creating something, when I'm birthing something new. Like, I feel like it can't be, nothing else can beat it, you know? And I always say that it's probably one of the things that will keep me in the game long term, that will always allow for longevity, is that I'm just doing this stuff because I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. It doesn't matter what comes out of it. There are things that obviously I have goals, I have expectations, I have metrics that I've set for the things that I build, but I also build because I love to build. And so my multipotentiality has really allowed me to hone the gifts that I have, the skills that I have, the enjoyment and the love that I have for the things that I create, and just reminded me that, yeah, I'm a creator at heart. And as long as I continue to express that in many ways, I will always feel fulfilled. You know, I will never be, that's one thing that nobody can ever take away. You know, I feel like just owning being a creator, you know, for creator's sake, you know, because I love it.